Good morning to day 8 in Scotland. So today is our first full day on the Isle of Skye, but it's also our last full day of our trip. So we're going to try and maximize everything that we're doing today. The plan originally included 3 hikes, so we'll see if the weather cooperates. So far it's been very rainy and gray today, but in theory it should lighten up at least a little bit this afternoon. I think it'll be a little bit off and on. It's definitely not going to be the same intensity of rain as we have been getting. This morning we left our tiny house in Breckish and we drove up to the first hike of the day, which is the Old Man of Storr. Pretty sure you're going to recognize this one when you see it because it's very, very famous. Apparently it's one of the most popular hikes on the Isle of Skye. So we'll see. There's definitely not a ton of crowds out today because of the weather and because it's off season, but we'll see if we run into more people. It definitely has been a little bit jarring almost to see the number of tourists here, even being very rainy and off season and everything, just because our comparison has been where we were most recently near Ullapool in the north, and there really just was not a lot. I mean, there weren't a lot of people in general, but there wasn't a lot of like tour buses and things like that. There just weren't a lot of tourists there. So it's very different now, hearing tons of different languages, hearing lots of, non-locals around us. But the Old Man of Storr, I would not be surprised if we run into quite a few people just because it is very popular. After that, the plan has been and still is at the moment to do the Quiraing, which is another popular hike, but it is supposed to be harder. We'll see if we get super soaked on the Old Man of Storr, if we're still up for it. Everything is very flexible today because we just want to enjoy as much as we can, but also not overdo it. And then the plan was to do a third hike, which is supposed to be super easy, and it was just supposed to be kind of a nice, cool down almost after the other hikes, which is the Fairy Glen. So we'll see how much we manage to get accomplished today. I will be bringing my other camera on the hike, not this nice camera, and we'll go from there. So this area where we just passed through is a basically secondary option for the trail, so it's not the main official trail, and there is a little bit of a danger of falling rocks. It's an active, changing sort of landscape. Rocks are falling and sliding and tumbling all the time, so it's actually quite cool. Adds to the danger a little bit, but as long as you don't dawdle through that area, and it was very fun. So this cliff face was formed about 60 million years ago, but the rocks and the cliffs that we're actually seeing and that are so famous were formed sometime during the last ice age, about 6,000 years ago. It looks like resting rocks that, somehow fell there, but in fact it's just what's left of what the cliff used to look like. Oh my God. Are back in the car, driving up the coast of Skye after the Old Man of Storr hike. It went really well, but I will say that I'm meeting my limit in terms of what I can do when I still have this sickness, whatever it is, and the conditions were kind of insane. The mistiness of it was really beautiful and made for some great videos and photos. I'm actually really, really sad that I couldn't bring my nice camera. That was one of the hikes that I was looking forward to the most, that I was most excited about having some really nice memories of. And I have lots of nice memories in my mind and from my phone, but definitely not as high quality as I was hoping. But the conditions were quite crazy. The wind was absolutely insane. At the peak, I actually thought I was going to be blown away. literally not being sarcastic. I actually thought I was gonna blow off the side of the peak. It was very, very windy, very cold, and the rain just really didn't let up the whole time. So not necessarily the nicest conditions to appreciate that much anticipated hike, but it was nice. After that though, I am definitely feeling pretty wiped. So we've decided that we're going to skip the Quiraing, which there are a few different hikes that we could have done around that area, but they all are fairly elevated, and I think I'm just not able to do elevation right now. The Old Man of Storr was not even super elevated, and that really, really wiped me. So we're recognizing our limits, and we have decided to pick out another hike, and this one is going to be fairly easy, fairly flat, which is the key here, and it actually will give us a little bit more of a coastal view on Skye, which is definitely something that we want to appreciate while we're here. So we are driving from where Storr is up the coast, and we will be stopping shortly for that hike. Almost slipped. Our little detour in Staffen is done. So we did a nice little, well, it started out nice, hike from Staffen, the town of Staffen, to the beach where there are actual dinosaur footprints. It's crazy, they were discovered apparently in 2001, but they're 166 million years old, I believe. Actual dinosaur footprints that are in the stones there. So we went searching for them a little bit. They were really hard to find, honestly. Apparently after a rain, they're easier, but we found one. Apparently there were something like 17 or something on the rocks, but yeah, we only managed to find one, and then the rain picked up again. Oh.
Wait.
We are on a kind of scary road right now. It's one of those where you have to pass, so it's a single track, and then there are little like divots in the road where you can allow someone to pass or they can allow you to pass, but it's very difficult to figure out. Not only do you have to be able to see the cars ahead, but they have to see you, and they have to stop if the passing place is on their side, and yeah, it's a little stressful. And there are potholes everywhere. The Isle of Skye, we have discovered, is a land of potholes. Anyway, dinosaur footprints. We only managed to find one, and then it got a little bit too hostile in terms of environment, and we decided to abandon it, and we finished what was supposed to be a little circular hike, but we ended up on the road. Apparently that was the trail that we were supposed to take. Here's another pothole. Oh my god. Now we are driving through the Quiraing, actually, area, making me very sad that I'm not able to hike it. Oh my god. These roads are insane. Anyway, the views are stunning here, but the roads are definitely a little bit scary, so I'm going to stop vlogging and help my husband pay attention to cars and drive here. And I will pick this back up when we are at our next destination, which is the Fairy Glen. sun came out. Finally. All right, it is day 9 in Scotland, which means it is officially the drive back to the airport. This morning when we left, the Isle of Skye was absolutely beautiful. The skies were blue, we had a rainbow, just so much beautiful color. I do think that it's gonna rain later today, so thankfully we didn't miss out on potentially the best day in terms of weather, but it was really nice to see the island like that as we left. So now we are on the road back to Glasgow, basically. We went via Glen Shiel, which is a beautiful several mile valley that I was able to record a little bit as we went, and it was absolutely stunning. The sunrise this morning, the colors, everything is just beautiful after the rain. It's like Scotland is, you know, apologizing a little bit for the past few days of absolute madness with the rain, but we really did get the entire overview, I feel like, of the weather while we were here, so we can definitely call it a full experience. From when we left this morning, the drive estimate was about 4.5 hours, and we've done almost an hour of that, so we are well on our way to the airport. We'll probably make a stop or two. There are definitely a lot of viewpoints along the way that we could stop and look at. We'll see how much I just record as we're going and how much we want to actually stop. We may need to stop for a coffee or something along the way as well, but we're feeling good, and we don't want to leave yet, but we are ready to see our cats, so it'll be a good day and a beautiful way to see Scotland as we leave. Hi, it has been about a week now since we got back from our Scotland trip, and I'm still reliving it over and over and over in my head. I can honestly say that that was the trip of my life. Like, that is a trip that I'm going to remember and to continue to relive and think about and dream about for years to come. But let me rewind a little bit. For those of you maybe who have followed me more recently or who have just forgotten, because I don't even remember my own life a few years ago sometimes, so I certainly don't expect you to. But let's give you a little bit of context about this trip, because it goes back pretty far. Several years ago, my husband and I decided that we wanted to do a Scottish Highlands trip. It probably goes back even further because fairly early in our relationship, we ended up doing a quick trip to Edinburgh. We did like a weekend, couple of days in Edinburgh, and we really loved it. It was one of the first trips we took together. Years later, we're living in Paris, and occasionally we would be able to take a little trip. We'd visit a new city in Europe that wasn't too far from Paris, but it was usually a city. And we had started dreaming about taking a trip where it was more remote and where we could just disconnect and just spend time with each other, spend time in nature, spend time with our surroundings. And that trip we booked, we had it all set, and it was going to be in April 2020. I think you probably know what happened to that trip in April of 2020. It had to get canceled. We were under lockdown in Paris. I'm pretty sure the UK was also under lockdown and everything, obviously no travel was really happening at that time. Ever since then, we have wanted to replan this trip and we have talked about it. It's a very frequent dinner conversation where we talk about when are we going to make Scotland happen. We lived in New York for a couple of years. We lived in Montreal for a little bit. And it became a lot more, trouble to plan a Scotland trip. It became a lot more expense, a lot more time. I mean, if you're going to travel from North America, you also have jet lag to think about. So it became something that was a little bit more complicated to plan. What we did start doing in the meantime, though, is hiking. We took several hiking trips. We went to upstate New York when we were living in New York City. We went to Mont Tremblant when we were living in Montreal. And we really started to enjoy hiking together. Hiking was never something I did a ton of before. My husband had done more of it before, but neither of us were super experienced. And we really developed a love for hiking, even though, again, I will say I'm not necessarily the best of hikers, but I really enjoy it. When we moved back across the Atlantic last year, we almost immediately started talking about Scotland and trying to figure out when we might be able to replan this trip. So, long story short, that was a very long story, but now you know the context of just how special that trip was. Not only was it a place that both of us really love and wanted to see, but it also has all of this background of our canceled trip and basically over 5 years that we've spent thinking about, dreaming about, hoping for this Scotland trip. I'm very happy to say it did not disappoint. Despite the fact that I got sick, I would do it again in a heartbeat. Even getting sick. Obviously, I'd prefer to do it again and not get sick, but I will take it again, even being sick, because it was just absolutely amazing. And I am so happy about the weather that we got. Yes, we got a lot of rain and gray, moody, misty days towards the end, but I'm kind of glad we got those too, because seeing Scotland like that and experiencing Scotland like that was incredibly fun and also kind of the part of Scotland that we love as well. But then we also got a lot of sunny days at the beginning, especially on the days where it counted the most, Ben Nevis and Staffa. So that was the first full day, but second day and third day, basically, when we did that. If we had gotten a really bad rainy day on the Ben Nevis day, we would never have made it. That was by far the most challenging hike that either of us have ever done. That hike would not have been possible for us if we had bad weather conditions and stuff to grapple with as well. It would have been, very miserable, but also I think we just wouldn't have made it. I'm very glad we did though. We literally climbed the highest peak in the British Isles. That is insane to me. And it was such a good experience. I wouldn't take it back for the world. I'll take the pain. I'll take the the struggles. I'll take the having to finish the last hour and a half of the hike with headlamps because we took too long. I'll take it all over again just to have that experience. And then the next day we had the Isle of Staffa, and that was a trip that actually I was a little bit nervous having to book, but you do have to book in advance to have, we did a packaged tour basically. We thought about taking our car on a ferry over to Mull and driving across Mull ourselves, but it just became a little bit logistically too complicated considering this was the first time we've, rented a car in a different country, first time driving on the left side of the road. Kudos to my husband, by the way. That was very impressive. I had told him from the beginning, way back even in 2020 when we planned this trip, if you are confident you can do it, I'm happy. I will support you. I will be the GPS. I will be the best co-pilot you could ever imagine. But I am not going to get behind the wheel on the other side of the road. I just don't trust myself. I'm sure I could have done it, but I don't trust myself. He said it was a little bit weird at first, but his brain did adapt and it became somewhat natural quite quickly. Actually, I think he said after the first couple of hours, it became pretty natural. Then it was just, sometimes when you would turn, if there were no cars around, sometimes you would have to kind of just mentally remind yourself, go on the left, go on the other side. One thing that was very different was the passing lanes, which became very evident on Skye, but we also had those when we were driving up Loch Ness. Basically, it's a single lane
width, or maybe just a little bit more than a single sometimes, but 2 cars cannot pass. So you have to use the little like divots, you know, side areas of the roads. But that meant that you were constantly having to look ahead, and the roads can be windy, so you can't always see, but you also have to trust the other driver is looking ahead as well, because sometimes they'll have the area to pull over and they need to pull over for you. Sometimes you'll have it, sometimes you both kind of have an area where you can stop. So then you have the little dance of who's gonna stop and who's gonna be, you know, nicer. We always were trying to be polite, and a lot of times the other driver would be as well. People were very nice, by the way. The locals were very nice. We really did want to explore places in the Highlands that were a little bit more off the beaten path as much as possible. And really, honestly, especially after seeing it and being there, we could have just picked one spot and done hikes in the area. It did not have to be the big hikes. It didn't have to be the highest rated hikes. We could have just picked one spot somewhere in the Highlands, and we would have had a million hikes to keep us busy for 9 days, honestly. The landscape is beautiful, and the natural reserves and the, you know, national parks and stuff that they have are just stunning. If we plan another Scotland Highlands trip, which I say if, but it's probably more realistic to say when we plan another Scotland Highlands trip in the future, I think that we probably will just pick one spot and do hikes around the area, maybe someplace a little bit more on the east of the Highlands. Like, there's a lot that we didn't see. There's the entire Cairngorms National Park, which I really wanted to do. But for this first trip, 0 regrets. Like, I'm so happy we did it the way that we did. I'm so happy we moved to different places, stayed in different sorts of accommodations and sorts of areas as well. It was everything that I wanted it to be, and I'm so happy about the way it turned out. There were a couple of things that we were hoping to do on the trip that we didn't end up doing for whatever reason. One specific thing is that I really wanted to go to a pub and hear live music. That is something that is so Scottish, I think, and we almost did when we were in Inverness. We actually walked past a pub that was getting ready to have a show. We saw the musicians setting up from the window, and we thought, well, maybe after we go and eat dinner, because we had the dinner place picked out already, after we go and eat, maybe we'll come back here and grab a pint or something and just enjoy some live music. But unfortunately, that was the night that I started to feel kind of sick, and I was coughing quite a lot. I was actually coughing a lot in the second half of the vlog. You don't hear it because, you know, I cut most of it out, or all of it out, as much as I could, but between a lot of those jump cuts, I'm like hacking. So unfortunately, after we ate, we ended up just going back to the hotel that evening. Also, the Old Man of Storr was a little bit of a letdown for weather and also health. I was not feeling super great that morning. I don't know how much you can tell from the video. I really exhausted myself on that hike, and it wasn't that hard of a hike, to be honest, especially compared to what we'd already done, but I just wasn't feeling super great that last day. So unfortunately, I was not able to really relish that hike like I was hoping to, but I did get a little pin at the store that they had there to remember it, because I do have a little mini pin collection that I'd like to occasionally add a pin to. So I thought this was worth it, and it will be a nice memory. I also got a, well, it's not actually a postcard, it's a print. And then I did get one, it's also not a postcard, but sort of like a postcard, this card. I got this on Iona, but it's of Staffa, because that was also another huge highlight of my trip. I've been talking for a long time, and I think probably at this point you're getting a little bit bored. I could talk about it forever, but I'm sure I will mention stuff in future videos and future vlogs. Other things that I kind of forgot to mention on the trip, or things that, I don't know, maybe if you have questions, I can answer some questions in a future vlog. Let me know in the comments below, and I will post some pictures. I took tons of pictures. I will post pictures in my community tab, so make sure you're subscribed to me if you're not subscribed already, because sometimes videos will show up in recommended, but I don't think the community tab posts ever show up in recommended, so I think you have to be a subscriber to see those if you want to see those. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I have loved recording it, but also editing it. Travel vlogs are some of my, well, I say some of, they are my favorite videos. The most fun to film, they're the most fun to edit. They're the only ones that I will go back and rewatch like a year later or 5 years later. I'm still rewatching my old Malaga vlog and my old Germany vlog and my Venice vlog. Like, I will still go back and watch those now. And I don't do that with my other videos, but my travel vlogs, I will continue to watch. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I hope you enjoyed experiencing just a little bit of Scotland through my eyes, through my lens, literally. And I will talk to you very soon in another video.